Thanks for coming, everyone, and for the search committee for the chief of police meeting. I want to apologize for changing it from yesterday to today. That was my fault, so don't hold it against these four. So thanks for coming. We need to go into executive session to approve the minutes. Don't anyone leave. We'll get up and go in there, review them, come right back, and we'll go into the rest of the process. As you saw from the agenda, there's a couple of items that we need to address, minutes being one of them. So do I have a motion to go into executive session to approve the meetings? Okay.
And you should say also, and to return to public session, that should be part of the vote.
And return to public.
You second? Yes.
Uh,
Why don't you call the roll call first for the meeting?
All right. Roll call. You want to start, Kenny?
Genga Koyanakis.
Samantha Jaskovic.
Anthony Tranghese?
Jerry Highland.
Tony Wisbecki.
All right. So shoot in there.
Be right back.
All right, so we're back into public, an open meeting. And as the chairman of the committee, I'd like to say a few words. First, thank you to the committee members for your service on this. I know I'll speak from my own personal experience. 6 weeks ago, I felt that it was just a way to continue the great community that my four daughters grew up in safely. So it's turned into an interesting journey. It's become an interesting journey. To try and continue the safety of our community. The original meeting was scheduled for February 16th. It ended up getting moved to February 19th because of some posting rules, I guess. At that meeting, though, on the 16th, the committee was given a tentative outline by the Board of Selectmen in terms of the recommended process, and certainly was given communication to us that we were allowed to deviate from that based on what we ended up deciding as a committee. Just to go a quick overview of that was we ended up moving our first official meeting. At the 16th, we were given a packet of resumes, cover letters, and any additional information that the candidates wanted to provide, and this outline. And the outline outlined some tentative meeting dates and times, and elect a chairman, passed out the resumes, discuss the guidelines of our committee, schedule the next meeting a date, and then so we set that for the 19th. Friday the 19th was our first meeting. So we reviewed the resumes on our own, came back in. The recommendations of the Board of Selectmen was to meet on the 25th. Unfortunately, that didn't work, so we ended up setting it for the 26th. The recommendation schedule suggests that each member come in with the top 3 candidates, discuss each member's top candidates, vote for agreed top candidates, forward the names to the Board of Selectmen, and then it goes into the Board of Selectmen process. Was the assumption of the committee that they would then do their due diligence for that. And as we've seen in the Monday, and I don't remember the date, meeting where they discussed how they were going to process those applicants. As we got together on the 19th and we discussed submitting in the process, we decided that we could submit 3 or more if we wanted to. So then we decided that we wanted to discuss the entire 16 candidates, not 17, which I keep seeing or hearing, candidates, and have discussions on each one. We all set? Good. Discuss those. So we reviewed those packets of cover letters, resumes, additional information, letters of recommendation, etc. Discussed all those as a committee. We voted on each candidate as we discussed them to consider them and move them forward, so to speak, or to put them on the side and at that point in time a not to move forward candidate pile. We ended that part of the meeting with a net total of the 5 candidates that then were given letters, I think, from the board to show up on Monday for an interview. Then we went back before we adjourned and discussed whether we wanted to review that pile of candidates, and we felt pretty comfortable with the process that had come to pass. Our subsequent meeting on February 26th, we reviewed the 5 finalists and we voted on them on each candidate. We had, I think it was 4 votes. 4 votes on a blind ballot, check off a box, much like the standardized test they give. Those ballots were then called Mr. Neffinger in to count them in front of us. He tallied them, we then reviewed them after and voted on the accuracy of that count and saved those. And those are held somewhere, I imagine, within this building. And then it came down to those 3 candidates. That brings us to today. When we found out on Monday, the Board of Selectmen meeting, that someone had dropped out, it was an unfortunate circumstance that we then started to feel that we might not have fulfilled our obligation of the committee to put 3 back. And as we got some calls and rumors and everything else, and then subsequently a story came out about some folks knowing that one of the candidates was going to drop out or didn't feel comfortable moving, we scheduled this meeting for Tuesday because we felt it was our obligation as a committee to put 3 viable candidates forward, and we felt that that hadn't happened since we were not aware that the candidate dropped out first, had discussed that previous to our meeting on Friday. Just to go over that again so that it's clear. It became not confirmed, but I guess later on in the article it sounds like it's somewhat confirmed that there was discussion about that candidate not being certain about wanting to move, and we felt that that was important to the committee to know, and we didn't. So we talked last week and scheduled this meeting for Tuesday, and then I was delayed coming back, and I felt it important that I be here and asked that the committee, if it was okay to come in tonight, and they agreed, so that we had a full committee. So that's why we put that off till tonight. So the point of tonight, and the reason for the additional business, was the belief that we need to submit a full complement of candidates. And then the Board of Selectmen / town then needs to do the vetting out of them. This committee is volunteered for any number of personal reasons with the best intentions to process based on the information that we were given, the resumes, cover letters, recommendations, outlines of what they think, if they were to be picked, et cetera, et cetera. We put that forth. We believe that we're still here to do that. We would like to consider that. I'm not sure that the Board of Selectmen wants to hear from us or not, but now I'm more speaking in terms of myself as a chairman, and certainly would open it up to the rest, but we believe, and everything I've heard in our discussion says that we believe that we should be putting the best candidates forward based on the information we have, and then it's up to the town to become the hiring or HR department. It wasn't our job to vet them out with background checks, Corey checks, or any kind of reviews like that. We don't have those capabilities. I don't have those capabilities. We've got a wide range of people here that have different jobs. None of them are experts in background checks. That's not our job. That wasn't our mission. That we weren't charged with that. We were charged with determining 3 best candidates on that information in front of us. I feel that we still have that ability to do that. The town having the ability to check out someone in further detail, they have that also. And I would encourage that to go on, and that's kind of how I feel about it. I'd like to open up the floor to the rest of the committee to talk if they'd like.
Jerry, just a question.
Sure, please.
Minutes of these meetings that you had, when will they be publicly available?
I honestly can't answer that for myself, so I'm going to defer to Doug, and if he doesn't know, I'm sorry, Doug, Mr. Neffinger, sorry. Sorry. I don't know that answer.
Sure. And I'd be happy to answer any other questions anybody else has of me. But there's been other information given to me by some of the candidates that were asked by the press, and I talked to our labor attorney, and they said by Massachusetts general law, because you're talking about employment, it's not available to the public. So when we're finished with the minutes and things, and everything's together, I would imagine when the selectmen have made their decision, I think that's available to the public at that point, but I'm still not sure. I'm not an attorney. I was ready to give out those to the public. What was given to me by some of the candidates And the attorney said, no, you can't. So that's how much I know about.
And we were under the
labor
impression
law.
that once
So-
we approve the minutes, they would become public, but
Right.
that, I guess, again, I volunteered for this to move it forward, so
in
I'm not
essence-
sure on that, so.
In essence, you still have one finalist, Sergeant Delesio. So
That's correct.
is he the
We'll,
incoming police chief?
and certainly, again, if we don't address that for you, I'm happy to, but if we continue to go forward, I think you'll find an answer forthcoming, if you can give me that latitude.
Do
Yeah.
you feel betrayed that allegedly the town administrator withheld names?
Well, what I'd like to do is continue on with, as I've opened it up, we didn't necessarily start with questions, so I stopped down. What I'm going to do is put that on hold. We're going to open it up to the committee. We'll continue this and go forward from there. I'll start to my left, does that work to start from my left?
Sure.
If you guys have anything to add, please. Connie?
I speak as an individual. I cannot voice an opinion of the committee because I have not discussed this with the committee. However, I have a proposal. In light of certain facts that have been revealed, I recommend that the town suspend the search for a new chief of police and continue to extend Chief Mellis's contract as per state law. This will allow time for a proper police chief search with thorough interviews and background checks. It will also be in the best financial interest of the town, as we will not have to pay for both a new chief and the contractual obligation of the town to the soon-to-be former chief. I'd like to have that considered.
You have to have a second on it. In essence, he's putting it in the form of a motion. You have to ask him to put it in the form of a motion.
Does anyone have, Kenny, do you have anything to add?
No, I'd like to pass.
Oh.
I agree with Ken.
Okay. Sam, anything to
Yeah,
add?
I mean,
Can we hold on a
I'm
second?
possibly the least politically involved person I know. I mean, I'm a school teacher from Springfield. I live in East Long Meadow, but I teach in Springfield, and I came on this committee to have an honest opinion and to look at people and to give my opinion for my town to see who I thought would do the best job possible. And things have happened, and in light of things that have happened, I just don't know if what we're doing is the correct thing right now. And there is a police chief that is a police chief in the town, and he's doing his job. And I think there needs to be a lot more discussion and a lot more activity before anybody goes forward with anything.
And I'd just like to add, I don't think anybody's blaming any of you.
What- And,
No.
and thank you,
Yeah.
thank you for that.
Thank you.
Tony, go ahead.
From my perspective, my name's Anthony Tranghese.
Sorry, Anthony.
Everyone can hear me? This was my civic duty to the town, being here over 20 years, and I said to my wife, thank you for recommending my civic duties. And if we could have all, when we convened on that first night, anticipated we would be here under these circumstances, I think we're all in awe.
We'd probably
quite
use a
frankly.
rewind button.
Yeah.
We would hit the rewind button, but
I think
You
it's
know-
an amazing, eye-opening experience for you guys.
Sure it is.
As well as everybody in the community, to see just how things can.
I think that from our perspective, at least from my perspective, that, our hope, or at least my hope, is that, at the end of the day, that it all gets, that we get the right candidate for the town, for the citizens of the town, for the administration, and to validate the committee's work, because we did work hard on this, and it's a very difficult task. I mean, there's a lot of people that want to be Monday morning quarterbacks, but in fairness to the committee members, that we all gave our personal time, and we all had the right intentions. And unfortunately, we are where we are. I would like to see us, I second what Connie has said. I think it's obviously in the best financial interest of the town. It's in the interest of the integrity of the process. I believe that, I see it as a separation to some degree. We were tasked with bringing 3 finalists to the table for the Board of Selectmen, and unfortunately, by circumstances beyond all of our control, 2 people pulled out. So we have a dual role here to consider as a committee to move forward and still present 2 other candidates, or in fact, maybe more than 2. I don't know as though, I certainly agree with that role brought up by my brother committee member here, and I certainly would validate it. But again, we don't know what the end result is going to be. We can't speak for the Board of Selectmen.
Can they fire volunteers? So,
But if we do move forward, we do have, for the record, there are people that, as we eliminated or came down to the finalist, there are people that are in order, per se,
And that are so qualified.
that are still
we had
qualified.
16 great
and-
candidates.
and
We had
we
16
had a
great
great
candidates.
pool. It was a very interesting process, and certainly from my perspective, I gave every candidate, because I know if my resume and my cover letter was in there, I would certainly want somebody to give it the attention it deserves. And I know it's unfortunate. It's been very disheartening for me, because the integrity is, I speak for myself, and
think
I
you
know
speak for the
other
committee.
the committee in general, so.
So,
So Jerry, I'd like to say something.
please.
Sure.
I'm not sure what facts are being referred to here.
Speak louder, please.
Sure. I wasn't prepared to speak either. I'm not sure what facts are being talked about here, but someone back there made an accusation, which I think is very unfair. You never, ever heard me speak bad about Chief Mellis, anyone here, any of the candidates, Chief Farnsworth, any of the selectmen, any of the department heads, nobody. You never heard me say anything bad about anybody. But yet I have accusations against myself. Usually, I keep my mouth shut. Why? Because my job here is to create harmony among the department heads in a town that's gone through a lot for the last 5 years. You will never find me saying anything bad about anybody, okay? And I have people come to me as a town administrator saying lots of things, and I say to them, where do we stop pointing the fingers? We'll point the fingers at this person, at that person, at that person. You're never going to end. It's time to say, let's take it from here, reset, and move forward. Chief, and the committee here, the committee can tell you, I had no authority here to choose any of the candidates. They came up with 5, and then they came up with 3. And the chief was not one of the 5 or the 3. I had nothing to do with that. I can't vote. Isn't that correct?
You are correct. You asked that question. You are correct. He is correct in his statement about, he said nothing bad about the chief. He actually did clarify something about the chief, that is that he wasn't the 13th or 12th or whatever number it was candidate. It just, no. Again, I'm going the right way with it. That is ridiculous. I found that to be I felt bad for you, chief.
But it has no.
Exactly.
So what you were looking at.
Exactly.
So if I could finish just one more
No,
thing.
but what I'm saying is, he was very clear on it, which was helpful for us. It wasn't a factor for us, chief. And he's correct, and you're correct. It wasn't a
I
factor.
read the article that
That was
somehow
unfortunate.
I had talked to one of the candidates beforehand, right? And he told me certain things. I can tell you, we met here, you guys met here on Friday night, I was in the other room, I wasn't part of the deliberation. They gave the names of 3 candidates. I started making the phone calls to the selectmen who those 3 candidates were. Chief Farnsworth was the first person I called. I never met him or talked to him before in my life. I don't know who he is, and I've never met him to this day. I called him on the phone, and he said, thank you very much, and I went on to make the other phone calls, made emails, and you can look at my cell phone, it's right there, okay? He called me back a half hour later and said, I don't think I'm ready to move to East Long Meadow. Okay, that's part of the thing that I have to do, move to East Long Meadow. Right on my cell phone, the times are right there, okay? I said to him, because I'm thinking, what do I know, right? Did he just change his mind? Did he have a conversation with his wife? And tomorrow he's going to change his mind again? Am I going to chase down the selection committee and say, let's come up with a 3rd guy? I said to him, listen, why don't you go interview before the Board of Selectmen, and you can ask them whether or not they're going to waive that or if it's hard and fast. You do it. I'm not the one who's going to get in the middle of it, okay? But think of it this way, too, and Chief, you know this. If someone's going to bring an accusation, it's someone who's been harmed. Has Chief Farnsworth been harmed? Then why did he go before the press to say something about the process?
It actually wasn't Farnsworth, it was O'Brien.
Went before said something.
It was the press release was about Dan O'Brien, had nothing to do with Farnsworth.
I don't even know what press release
No,
that is.
there's-
What press release is that?
It was in the paper.
Today.
Yeah.
Today's paper? Sorry, I didn't read today's paper yet, sorry.
Full article.
Oh, you want to read that?
Full front page article. You're
I'll read today's paper. All I can tell you is what I know. People can talk around it and they can say anything they bad around me. You know what? I don't call people that.
Don't need to say that.
I don't say that to people. It's not being nice. People say to me, Mr. Neffinger, you're not being nice. You show me one person I've ever spoken bad about, okay? You show me one person that I've ever insulted to their face. You won't find them. I don't call people liars. I don't call people names. That's my character, okay? That's who I am. That's the way my parents brought me up, okay? You find someone. You won't find them, okay? You can bring accusations against any way you want. You can go to your church. You can do whatever you like. You can read the Bible. You will find those things are not acceptable. That's the basis of our Western culture, of laws and respect among each other. And I don't do that to people, and that's all I can say. Thank you.
In terms of where we're at, the committee, and from my perspective, it was upsetting that we did not have that information, for whatever reason it is. And I want to speak my piece on it, okay? Because the way I looked at it is we eliminated other viable candidates. And if whoever is to blame on it, and I'm not one to blame, but in fairness and out of respect to this committee, it was unfortunate, but here we are, and we got to move forward. So I believe, and again, I'll open it up to the other committee members, but we proceed and we bring the other candidates forward as we were tasked from day one. And then if we are done with our business, then it's in the hands of the town to move forward on it in that respect. And again, I'm one person on this committee. I've been voiceful amongst us in committee. The minutes will reflect it. I felt that we should have interviewed candidates from day one. I couldn't perceive how, if I was an employer, that I would hire somebody without convening an interview process. And again, there was a lot of talk about that's an HR function, we don't want to go down that road. But the final decision of making the fate on a hierarchy of the town in this capacity, absent interviews, was deplorable in my opinion. And I didn't care if it was to have the person stand before us and say, this is why I want to become the police chief in the town of East Long Meadow. It put the face before the name, before the committee, so we could interact and get a sense. How do I even know, and I mentioned this, it's all on record, how do I know each one of these candidates, other than the ones we know of through common knowledge, these external candidates from out of state, how do we even know they exist, in fact, in people? We don't. We assume that they brought forward documentation for consideration and that they exist. And I felt that should have been done. And again, there's a voting process here by members of this committee, and we moved forward and we brought the best candidates forward under the process. And that's all I have to say on it. Yes, sir.
I'd just like to thank you, gentlemen, for your efforts. And what Connie stated tonight, I think should resolve the problem. But it brings out a bigger issue. I mean, government in this town, you have a charter commission out there, and I think this...
Our business, sorry to interrupt, but our business is the chief of police business. I'm not sure that we're
Well,
qualified.
Shut me off.
Okay.
It just points out that the concerns of the Charter Commission have come to light with this kind of an issue. And this is a business, this city is town is a business.
A large
You have
one.
a problem with a budgetary issue in town, or any department, you don't fire the person, you resolve the problem. And I think
Like any,
this just
like any
goes back
business,
to
I'm
what
sure
we-
there's a process that should be in place that might not be in place. We're not, this committee's not qualified to talk about that. I guess to your point, it's a valid point that hopefully everyone comes out and exercises their God-given right to vote. That's the most important thing. It gives us the right to complain or cheer by using that vote. I've always told my kids that, so, go ahead, Tony.
I just yield to, she has a question.
I apologize, Alessandra from 22 News. So will you be taking up that proposal to suspend the process, or is that where you guys are at?
You should sit here. That's where, we're trying to go that way, but we also want to be fair to the folks that took time out of their days to come, and I see them, and I'm aware of them. Thank you.
I-
Do you know if the residency clause now is going to be optional?
Again, that would be a Board of Selectmen. They put it in place. That wasn't something that we put in place. That was put in place.
Recommend that?
Well, we had
We
strict
can recommend-
guidelines on it that we followed, and that was in, that's why, from the initial committee meeting, I asked for the posting, the job posting.
And we can recommend anything.
And that was
Anything that we
clear.
want, it was given also, part of those guidelines was that if we wanted to recommend something additional, more than 3, that's fine. We can make recommendations, so we certainly could make that recommendation, but part and parcel with that was also the reality that they don't have to take our recommendations. So that is a possibility.
But when you were picking the finalists, was that part of picking a finalist? whether he was going to-
Yes.
We were under the impression that they needed to have residency based on what the Board of Selectmen had voted on or decided.
Yeah. We had the job posting and it was followed pretty
Yes,
verbatim.
exactly, yep. Tony, you had something, Connie?
Yeah, but based on the situation we presently are in, firstly, what's the rush? The present chief is under contract. And I'm worried if we're gonna spend out, and he's well entitled to his year's wage by state mandate, not by contract or by what select board determine. Financially, this is a hit for the town if we don't continue to move forward. I would like to make a motion that this committee remain intact for the time being until a solution is, or a proposal or an option is forwarded by the Board of Selectmen at their 16th, next meeting I think is their 16th.
Second,
And
Do
move
you wanna
forward
add-
on this.
Do you want to add that in?
And also
Right.
put in what I have read
You
previously.
want to read it again, Connie?
I'll read
Yeah.
it one more time if
Can
you
you
like.
do the whole motion again intact?
I'll make a motion that this committee accept the following proposal. Once again, the proposal. In light of certain facts that have been revealed, I recommend that the town suspend the search for a new police chief and continue to extend Chief Mellis's contract as per state law. This will allow time for a proper police chief search with thorough interviews and background checks. It will also be in the best interest of the town, as we will not have to pay for both the new chief and the contractual obligation of the town to the soon-to-be former chief. I like that
And-
read in the minutes.
And obviously, that "I" would become a "we" from the committee. Do I have a second?
second.
Seconded by Tony. All in favor of Connie's proposal?
Aye.
So. That would be the recommendation of the committee. Greg, you'll take care of forwarding that on to the BOS.
Can I have a copy?
The gentleman in the plat has been extremely patient with me, so thank you for that.
Just one question.
Sure.
Are any of you members on this board, have you ever been in law enforcement or are in law enforcement?
I have 33 years, state,
State police?
Commonwealth of Mass, environmental, state environmental police.
Not so rinky-dinky, Disney fan club car. You're a regular state trooper?
That's correct, sir.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
22 years in the Connecticut Department of Corrections.
Thank you as well.
I saw a couple other folks who were very, ma'am, I'm sorry.
I was just wondering about this residency and that was thrown in, so the criteria for selecting somebody. Were all the people who applied residents as East Long Meadow?
No, they were
No.
not. I think we had one candidate,
Roxbury.
Jeff
yeah,
DeLassio was a
DeLassio,
resident,
yeah.
but
Everyone else
that was put
outside.
in the job posting that, I guess, Greg, was that created by the Board of Selectmen or HR department?
The job posting?
The job posting outline, job description?
Right, it was one that was used in the past.
Okay.
And it's standard, kind of standard from the MMA, Massachusetts Municipal Association.
And the residency
But it wasn't,
was put in
So
there.
Residency was put in there.
yeah.
And she,
So what would, if you pick somebody like Farnsworth was Camden, am I mistaken? You're right.
correct.
He's a chief in
Somebody
him.
had to move here.
That's
Correct.
our understanding.
Correct.
Within 6 months, I think, was in it.
Would Mellis be given that option too?
Again, that falls on the Board of Selectmen. That wasn't our decision to put that in or not put it in.
No,
Um,
that's not what I'm saying. I'm saying-
Would he be given the option to move to town?
Yeah.
I would guess
If
I
he
would
had been
broach
in the
that
top
sub.
5, I think he would have been.
Oh, yes, yes.
Anybody who was in the top
Yes,
5
he would have been given that
6
option. I would
months.
imagine the Board of Selectmen will give him that option going forward, I guess. Yeah, I understand. And again, Chief, I just want to go on, I didn't mean that as a negative. I meant that more as a positive, in that I've used those for years, and they're about it worth the paper they're written on, was my only point, and I felt for you. That's all. I just wanted to be it on the
I'm
record.
just confused on how that even got discussed.
Someone was aware of
That was not on my
it.
resume, and that was not on my...
Someone was aware of it, and it was brought up, and we weren't sure, and we wanted clarification on it.
That seems kind of ludicrous to me, that
All right, that's,
you could have someone call you and say that, hey, I eat ice cream every Friday, not Thursday.
again, no one called me anyways. I can't speak to
We
how.
had no knowledge of it.
Yeah, I don't,
Yeah.
let me I kind of, the only time I heard that order was that night of the interviews, where it was addressed to one of the selectmen, and then there was a clarification by, I think,
Selectman Gorman.
one of the prior individuals on the prior Board of Selectmen brought up the clarification on it. That's the only time I heard about
Okay,
it.
but that was when you had your interviews for your final 2.
No, I don't ever recall that coming up in
Well, that's what I'm
committee.
saying, then how did
Yeah.
it come, how did you hear about Jerry?
I don't, it's not in our minutes that I'm aware of.
It was stated in the paper, however, and I don't know what date, the way I read it, that it was a possibility that the requirement for residents may be negotiated.
Oh, I know about the residency, Connie.
Okay.
I want to know about that number 12.
Okay.
The number
We have no
12 was
knowledge
mentioned by
of
Mr. Gorman
Right.
during the interviews of the only 2 finalists that you had.
Right.
The way you were talking, that was known to this committee. And you guys haven't met since that interview with the final 2.
No, the 12 I
Correct.
never heard of.
Where'd it come from?
Yeah, the first I heard, I happened to come in, I think there was only 2, Connie and I were at the interviews. That's when I heard it, and then it was addressed to Mr.
That came
Gorham.
from
I
Selectman
know what
Gorman.
you're talking about.
If I think I know what you're talking about. I think Gorman was going back to when you were initially hired.
Absolutely,
Yes.
but
Yeah,
how does
but I thought-
this board talk about it?
We
They
didn't.
did.
We didn't.
It was during that final
No, no.
2
Right.
interview.
He just said that it was clear.
That's correct.
No,
Yes,
he misunderstood the question. It was brought up on LCAP by Gorman, but
Right,
I can't speak for you guys, but
right. It was never
he found that on
discussed.
his own, wherever
Right.
the
Right.
truth or
He made
falsity
that
of it
up.
is all Gorman, you know? But it's not,
Yeah.
but it's not from these guys, I don't
No,
believe.
I never recall a
You're getting
conversation
the
in
wrong
committee. Yeah, it was,
Greg, you explained it to him, didn't you?
No, it
No.
wasn't him, it was somebody else. When
Am
I
I
know-
going deaf here?
I know what you're talking about. When I watched, pardon me, we watched playback of the LCAP, it was mentioned by Mr.
I
Gorman.
understand that.
It was somebody, who was it? Delisle. Delisle was the one who
Gary's
said,
here.
I was
Gary's
on that,
Right.
yeah, and I was
Yeah,
on that.
have him
committee,
clarify
it's
it,
not
yeah.
number 12, that's what was
Right.
said.
Right.
So otherwise.
yeah.
That was all in the select
But it was
board
all
meeting,
on
it was
select
not
board.
on this.
It really-
I don't think that was.
We never reviewed
Mr.
it.
Neff and Jerry said.
Jerry said. I don't know what.
But we didn't have it
Yeah.
before.
That's this current
Our
one.
knowledge.
Right.
They were talking about some list back in the day, back with Gary and Jack Claffey, that board.
Yeah.
Thank you.
I wasn't part of the conversations of any of the discussion about you, and so I have no idea what they're talking about.
Oh, no.
So,
So when
So-
will the committee be meeting again? Not,
We don't know if we will or won't.
Yeah,
We
I mean,
voted to keep it intact.
We'd
If
like to
the
stay intact
If the
through the
board wants to
process.
utilize us, we're happy to stay intact.
the Board of Selectmen, when are they gonna be here again?
Yeah.
I
mean,
think there was a sign on the door, if I'm not mistaken, that it was canceled.
Tomorrow, but they changed
Yeah,
it.
we would like to finish our work, and, for what, again, we can't speak for them, but I think it would be, I speak for myself, it'd be, for them to cut us off at this stage would be, very disrespectful.
Board of Selectmen are meeting on Tuesday, they have a regular schedule, sorry, Wednesday.
guy behind you,
Tuesday's
then you.
election day.
The guy
And if Jerry would like to, as the chair, I can pass on to the Board of Selectmen your
Yes.
wishes. to
Yeah, so
continue the,
please, again, the motion and that. The gentleman with the sunglasses first, and then I know you were right after with you, yes, sir.
Are you gonna just review the finalists, or are you gonna go back and review how many, you're gonna go back?
I don't think that we have that knowledge right now on what the Board of Selectmen decides or doesn't decide. My understanding is that they have the latitude of keeping us intact or disbanding us. Again, I'm not an expert on political rules. Maybe Sam's the least political. I'm probably right behind her. And this will be my last foray into it. I can assure you. So I'm not sure. I don't. Again, I can't speak for them, so I don't really know. I mean, we're happy to continue it. I guess I don't know if you can fire a volunteer or not, but I guess they could. So that I don't have that answer. I can't speak for them. We're happy to continue it as indicated by our vote. And gladly do it. Again, I believe in this town. I have 4 daughters. I grew up safely in this town. I'd like to be involved in it. I'll come to you next, but this gentleman with the potato peeler.
Yeah, I'd just like to say that all we have to go by is what we see in the newspaper, reading the newspaper rather. And today's article was quite lengthy and quite scathing in terms of pointing fingers at everybody.
Right.
Including yourself. And I don't blame you. If something is untrue, you should stand up and you should not, you should defend yourself.
Well, thank you. Normally I don't, because sometimes I would be there all day defending myself instead of doing the work of the town.
Well, like I say, as people, this is what we have to go by. I've been following this thing all along, right from the beginning. And I think there was something in the beginning that they had an agenda in the beginning to get rid of this chief.
Yep.
There's no question about it. Even when they put reports out from the chairman of the Appropriations Committee explaining to them, it's like they never took that into consideration. Then the president of the Police Association comes out and basically says just the opposite, but at the same time defending the chief. It's like they never took that into consideration. So you come up with, after all this time, I realize you did a good job, you get 2 people backing out. Something's wrong. I mean, if you can believe half of what was in the paper today.
Well, think of from our...
Hold on a second, Tony, hang on. First, let's address, you talked about your information from the paper. Remember that where that information comes from, the job is, ultimately, it is a business that is there to... It's there to sell newspapers, viewers, ears. Brad and I go way back in radio, and we both were just talking in the hallway about where the business has gone of media, clicks online. So realize that. So I encourage you all to take that information, process it, and then do your own homework, and don't take it for what it is. Because we've seen a number. Well, there's smoke. There's, as my father would say, where there's smoke, there's a lot of times there's fire. So I mean, again, I'm not saying it's wrong. I'm just saying that realize what it is. It's a business. Long gone are the days of the driven snow, you know. So to that point, you know, they do a great job. They do a great job of that, but ultimately it is a business. So it's incumbent upon yourselves to do your homework beyond that. Peel the onion back.
You know, and every one of the committee members, we all got phone calls from the media. I had a number of them myself. And I said, which the media didn't report, but I said from day one when they called me, listen, for me to make a statement to you would be a disservice to the candidates, and it would interfere with the transparency of the process. And the media kept calling, and I gave them very limited information that, you know, we haven't been in a loop on a lot of things that are happening, and it's obvious here. So in fairness to us, the people that took the time here to do this thing right, we did our job right.
I'm sure you
And I'll defend my, you know, our work here for everybody. We worked tirelessly to do this thing, and we had no anticipation that this thing was going to start. People were falling off, and for whatever reason, but that's why our task here now is we move forward, we bring more candidates forward, or we have to get some direction from the board as to what they want us to do. And we will reconvene. If it takes us 6 months to a year to do this, there's no rush. I said it from day one. Take our time. We have time. I mean, you can, I don't want to throw another town into it, but I've been following Belchertown's process. The selectmen went back to the committee and said, take a few more months, give us more names. They vented people, bring us more names. So there's no reason that, from the perspective of the board, for our committee, that we can't. We have viable candidates here that took the time to apply, and we can go through it. We can call them in, which I wanted to do from day one, and have them sit before us and sell themselves. That's what people do at interviews. They come before you, and they discuss their qualifications, and they have an opportunity to sell their strengths, and they can be challenged on their weaknesses. But when you can't do that, absent that, we're here. And why are we here?
Woman in row 2 had a question, I think.
Yep, I just wanted to make a quick comment. I moved to this town 5 years ago because it was known for being a safe place to live. The schools are safe. Everywhere in town is safe, and it's because of Chief Mellis and his officers
Right.
that, you know, this town is doing as well as it is. I just wanted to just quickly ask, so with your motion this evening to suspend the search, does that mean that the next select board meeting, Board of Selectmen meeting, a week from today, will be after the election, the town election? So at
The
that.
runoff election.
Yes, so at that time, we will, in theory, have a new select board, so it could go.
No.
No.
That's
But
in
that's,
April.
that's in April, okay. I need to clarify that, thank you.
I'm gonna go down and come back. I think you were first, sir.
That's right, I just wanted to know how probable is it that the Board of Selectmen are going to act positively on this motion?
Right. You know, again, this is just put on a table, and to anticipate would be, you know, unfair and unjust to
Yeah.
people. We can't speak for them. I would.
As much as we would like to say yes, they will,
Right.
you know, we're comfortable with that decision. We would highly recommend that they accept it. Beyond that, you know, the $2 didn't get
You
you.
know, ultimately, we want to do the right
Really.
thing for the town, the citizens, for our children, for our schools, for the police department, to preserve the integrity and allow the morale. I mean, this affects morale, it affects, you know, it's just, you know, it is what it is at this point, and we're not in a position to repair. We can only do our job and continue on our job, and I'm prepared to do that, and I know the rest of the committee is.
I think based on the response from this avid group that appeared here to listen to our case, many citizens in this town are concerned. It's been an embarrassment.
Yep.
And therefore, to move forward, I think it's logical that the select board, whoever the new board or existing board for the primary next week, that they take a long, hard look at this and study it and move in a direction where we do it right. Slow it down. There's no need for the rush, and let's
Do our due diligence.
Due diligence.
We're talking about the chief hierarchy in criminal justice within the town. I mean, it's.
She was just ahead of me.
Sure.
No, not you, I'm sorry,
No,
the gentleman
go
here
ahead.
had a question, but we're going here with the stylish purse.
It's pretty much along the lines
Okay,
of that. Unfortunately,
okay.
I want to, I just want to say thank you to you guys being up there, because I know it's not easy. Being on the panel involves a lot of work.
Sure.
And we can put forth that your recommendation to the Board of Selectmen, it's getting through to the Board of Selectmen how important this is for us. So I know all of this is out of your control, and everyone who's here tonight needs to pressure the Board of Selectmen of how important it is that they should take your recommendation. And that's the problem, is you have two people that have to say yes, and then they can recommend this. But the problem is getting past two selectmen that are still going to be sitting there next week.
They won't care, because they have an agenda and they want to see something.
Well, I don't know about
Okay.
that, but it's just more of, if it's going
Okay.
to be the same three people, it's going to be hard for them
Do we want
to
to
get
ask
Well, it could
questions
become
down
a
here?
personnel issue.
You want to keep the question?
Yeah, I think, yeah, I would keep it going, sure.
Right.
Go ahead, sir. Oh, I'm sorry, hold on 1 second. I
Yeah.
didn't mean to cut you off, I thought you were done, sorry. Oh, you all set? Good. Sir?
It seems a little
Thank you.
unusual to me, and probably other people here as well, that you have someone that's been in this job for 10 years, done a very good job at this, and why he hasn't been a finalist for his own job.
That's right.
But they were following what they were given to follow. It's not their,
It's not
it's
their
not their
fault,
fault.
it's the fault of the select board.
The select board made a list for them to follow, and they followed it,
And his name
and
unfortunately
he
was
did
not
not
on
fall on that list because he doesn't live in
But
town.
don't they have to
That's
give
exactly
legitimate
right.
reasons why he's not a candidate?
Those
Yeah,
dis-
it's an executive position of the committee to speak on other candidates or candidates, so I know we would have to withhold commenting on that, only because executive, out of fairness for all the committee members, or
And all the
all the
candidates.
candidates, I'm sorry.
Yeah. Any other questions? No?
Say what the criteria was in the selection process that you were given. Were you given a criteria?
We used the posting, the job description as the criteria.
That was public knowledge, right?
Yeah.
Yes.
You know, the posting is still, the original posting we have, the committee members have it, and it's And it was on the eastlongmeadow.org, and I don't know if I have it in front of me, but the minimum requirements that were posted, criminal bachelor's
here,
of
I
criminal
got it here.
justice, you have it? Okay.
The town of East Long Meadow is, you want me to read it?
Sure.
The town of East Long Meadow is seeking applicants for the position of full-time chief, can everyone hear? I'm looking, okay. Looking for a full-time chief of police. Applicants must be a U.S. citizen and hold an active valid driver's license. A bachelor's degree in a field related to criminal justice or equivalent is required. Applicants must be Massachusetts Criminal Justice Training Council certified and have at least 10 years of law enforcement experience, of which 3 years must be a command officer. Appointment is subject to physical and psychological evaluations and also subject to a background examination. Successful candidates must meet the professional standards of the town of East Long Meadow. This is a full benefit position with competitive salary. Do you want me to read the rest about where they send their resumes and applications?
It doesn't say anywhere on there that he has to be a resident of the town of East Long Meadow.
The advertisement you read.
Yeah, no.
Oh, is that what it is?
It was definitely, the residency was there. In fact, there was,
If you go-
originally it was 2 months, and then it went
To
to,
6
they were
months.
giving a candidate 6 months to move into town. Because 2 months was pretty unreasonable.
And
You can't
apparently, it
close
looks
on a
like there was
house
going to
in
also be a background examination.
Subject to background.
Yeah.
And
So-
if I could clarify, Jerry, there were some questions why a background examination wasn't done before. And I chose the police chief in West Springfield when I was mayor there. And speaking with other police officers and with Chief Camperchani, they said that you never do a background check for police chief. That's what I was told. So we didn't do that in West Springfield, but we did it here, but Massachusetts law, Massachusetts employment law says you cannot do a background check on anybody before you interview them, because you could prejudice that particular person for employment. So after you interview people, then you do the background check. That's Massachusetts law, signed by Deval Patrick in 2010.
Which makes
You are
sense,
aware
which
that
makes sense. I mean, we do
Selectman Thorpe
that.
wanted to place O'Brien in the seat last meeting without a background check. You were here to see that, right? You missed that part? It should be in the minutes.
Yeah, she had requested that they skip the background check altogether.
We didn't do a background check in West Springfield, whatever that's worth.
That's not what that.
All right.
Questions?
Anybody
That it?
else?
Good. All right.
I just, on your, Tony, what version, or Jerry, what version did you have? Because the job was posted, I want to say either late January or early February, and it's a couple of days. Then it was finally approved with a date.
Yeah. I have a, there's not a date on this, chief. It just says,
We were given it the first
this
night
is
of
just
the
all I
first.
have on it. It's just, no date or anything, so I'm not sure what it was. I mean, I did see it online. I went and looked online at it, and I did see the residency requirement, but.
Yeah, there was no date, it's just,
Yeah.
it's the same.
Same one, yeah, I just-
posting, yeah.
However, it had to be
Oh.
late January because the first application received at the town select's office was on 1/26.
And the committee did question the, Greg, on, did the candidates all know about that requirement when we asked you? And you said that it was up on the posting in time and that, so.
Of the residency.
Right, requirement,
The
yeah.
residency requirement was there from day one. I think we
Yeah.
did it in capital letters, so it was very clear for everyone to see. Therefore, you can imagine my surprise when someone said they weren't aware of living in town. But be it as it may, I guess that makes good.
Who exactly decided, if you don't mind my asking, to put Chief Mellis's job out there? Was that the committee?
No, no, we were tasked with.
Let's make it clear.
No, I'm sorry.
Yeah, I mean, no, it could, I would assume it's the selectmen,
Right.
So,
you know,
the
from what I'm reading.
2 to 3 selectmen.
Yeah, I got that.
Yeah, from the committee, I read an article in a Reminder that my wife brought to my attention, that the town was looking for residents to apply to
And you're
their
so
civic
happy
duty.
about that.
So my wife, I said, I don't have time, dear, and she said, no, it'll be a great civic duty for you. So I applied and sent the resume and cover letter, and here we are. 3 weeks later, 4 weeks later,
So,
maybe more.
One quick I'm sure I can speak for most of the people here. Would you make sure that the select board understands that your recommendation is to halt
Right.
the search for a new chief?
Sure.
And that was...
We'll do the best we
Yeah,
can.
we'll suspend it until,
Yeah.
yes.
With the support of everyone in this room.
And I'm sure-
I believe that the select board is doing what we're asking of them. And we're, until after, I mean, give them time.
I'm sure Greg will pass that information on to them about our recommendation, correct?
Right.
And then the next meeting is rescheduled to when, you said?
The
Wednesday.
select board
Wednesday?
meeting on Wednesday, whether or not this will be on their agenda or not, I haven't
Right.
seen the agenda, but I imagine it will.
But the only amendment to that would be if the Board of Selectmen does not consider and want to move forward in that direction, that comes back to committee to present the additional candidates forward. So we have that 3 original marching orders, there was 3 candidates or more that we present. That would be my only vetting, because if we stop and they do not go forward, then that leaves, well, we have 1 candidate, which is fine, but.
Follow up, Greg, is the meeting already scheduled for here for next Wednesday?
No, it's the Council on Aging.
It's still going to be at Council on Aging? Because I know, normally they meet here, tomorrow's at, so.
I bet they have scheduled where it's gonna be.
Location to be determined?
That's right, that was to be...
I'm not sure if they voted in the last meeting where the location was. I know they voted on the topic, so it was Wednesday.
Cancel like that. I
You
saw it,
agree?
I couldn't read it.
You concur?
What?
With that?
With what?
If they.
Connie asked me a question.
No, I'm sorry, if they don't go forward and adopt holding this thing, that we can reconvene and provide more names, because that's gonna leave it down with 1, we only have one candidate
Well,
before.
again, I think we've established that we can't dictate that.
No,
to
no, no,
them.
I understand
But
that.
we've kept, my
Okay.
understanding is from our motion, we've kept this intact
Correct.
for that purpose.
Okay.
To be able to provide candidates to fill out that 3 or more.
Correct.
But I think ultimately it ends up being their
No,
decision.
no, I understand
So
that,
I'm
yes.
in agreement. I think
Okay.
Connie had asked me a question, so I'm not sure I heard the question.
Yeah, that's
But
basically
from
what
what
I'm
Tony's
saying.
saying, my interpretation is, yes, that's the reason for keeping this intact, is that, 1, we believe in Connie's motion, but 2 is that to at least stay intact so that we can do what we originally came to do, and that's to provide 3 viable candidates when it comes time to process it, not just 1, even though that 1 is a great candidate. I mean, I've known Jeff for many years, and he's a great officer and a sergeant, so, but I think we should, in fairness to the town, provide 3 as we were asked.
This may possibly include an alternate, because what happens if we have another condition with 1 or 2 pull out?
Yeah.
And it's possible.
Right.
So-
And in our mind, we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, all the way.
Have
up
another
to
question?
16.
The chair recognizes.
Yeah, John?
Jerry, Tony, Connie, everybody on the board, I truly applaud, your efforts and your time that you gave. I probably won't get a direct answer to this, and I understand that, but were the resumes what you were supposed to work with, or was it the resumes plus all kinds of other things that might have influenced you in the process?
Resumes.
The resumes.
Resumes, cover letters, and.
Discussing those points.
In the
So
discussion.
again, I truly applaud what you did, but I have a really hard time understanding how the existing chief of police, commanding officer of a very safe town, except for accusations that might have been picked up by errant people around town blaming our current chief for issues. I have a hard time that his resume would have depicted that he's been accused of these things that make him not a real good candidate. So objectively, if we're looking at the resumes, I'll just finish my statement there. If we're looking at the resumes, and based on the limited knowledge I have of the non-public resumes, Jeff's an awesome guy, Chief's an awesome guy, I know a few other people, but I can't comprehend, and I actually think about it pretty regular since this process has gone the way it is. How could the existing chief not have all of the things that from his resume?
If I can speak to that for myself, I don't think anybody that we looked at was not qualified. I think, as far as I was concerned, there were certain things certain candidates had that overqualified them against other people. I don't think there was one person that I read through that was not qualified for the job in any way, shape, or form. Every person sent something through that was qualified. Every person had an excellent background, excellent references. Every person had job experience. Every person had an excellent education. It was things that I think took certain candidates above and beyond. I don't think Chief Mellis was not qualified in any way, shape, or form. I don't think that's what anybody here is saying. I think there were just certain things that set other people forth in a different way, as far as my own opinion.
We're saying 5 people had more qualifications.
In my opinion,
than
yes.
our current chief of police.
Yeah.
You were going to say something, Tony, or no?
Just-
Hold on
Sure.
a second,
Yeah.
1 second.
No, let him respond to it. No, go ahead, Chief, respond.
I thought Tony had something to respond to John's question.
The only thing, John, and for myself, I'll speak for myself, when I looked at, certainly the qualifications were met there on the minimum qualifications, and not again to speak to any particular candidate's qualifications, but I looked at, as an administrator of a department, and I looked at the overtime allocation, and I did my homework. I talked to people that were on the Appropriations Committee and made sure that I had my facts about, why this amount of money was being spent. And I looked at it in the standpoint of, we're running a business, the town per se, and from a business perspective, the questions that I had to myself were, if this amount of money was being expended, and again, the figures are out there, so, whether it's $380,000 or $300,000 or being cut or proposed to be cut to $150,000, the bottom line was it was in excess of $300,000. And I look at all these kids that we are sending to school and coming out with college degrees, and parents in the position where my kid can't find a job, you do the math, you're talking, even on the base of the patrolman's salary, $49,000, $50,000 a year, times how many to accrue that overtime. You could have zeroed out that overtime accounting, excluding emergency situations and gainfully employed people. I have a real problem with that number.
So that's exactly.
Well, and Chief, in all due respect, it's not an attack on you, because I can tell you, I vetted the question to another chief in another community, and when you do the numbers of employees proportionate to your numbers weren't that bad.
But is that based on cover letter in my resume?
That's my point exactly.
Right.
So I think when and if you reconvene.
Yeah,
and you
understood.
have this again,
Yeah.
if the rules of engagement
Right.
are to review the resumes and put forward the candidate, then unless you're going to check everybody's overtime budget of the other
Right.
15 candidates,
Which,
and unless
yeah.
you're going to check everything else that you
Understood.
bring into the formula,
Mhm.
I think it's a flawed formula. I think
Well-
you need to stick to the resume and the cover
Right.
sheet, or you need to do the same thing you're doing
Mhm.
of Chief Mellis for
Right.
all 15 candidates and
Well-
find out what their ability to run a business
Sure.
would be judicially
But, and John,
That was my point.
in respect to the committee, I'm on record numerous times to bring the candidates in, to ask them that question
Right, but
directly.
That wasn't what was told. So
But I had no control over it.
When you reconvene, if you
Right.
reconvene, just
Understand.
try and respect what I
Because
said.
from an HR standpoint, you're a businessman with 100-plus employees?
Yeah.
If you were looking at a spending of $200,000 to $300,000 a year,
If I was to judge
All right.
15 or 16 individuals on criteria,
Correct.
I can't deviate from that criteria.
I can't agree with you
select
more.
Individual and bring that into the form.
I can't agree with you more. I was told interviewing is going down an HR road, and it's not the direction to go. And
Okay.
you know what? I wasn't looking to go down an HR role. I was looking to ask questions to elicit logical responses so that the committee could make informed decisions. And I'm on record, I don't know how many, if I didn't say it 10 times. So, and you have to understand that we did the best of what we could do under the circumstances. Yes?
This gentleman here, hold on, this gentleman here, and then Doug had a question, so unless you want to defer to Doug.
Go ahead.
Doug?
Yeah, I want to call back, this is the open meeting violation, the minutes, I don't know if you folks were made aware of these at all, but it's a motion by W. Gorman, made the motion to put the chief's job out to advertise for the 31st of March. Today's the 9th? All right, so what was the urgency? What was the rush? He's asking about posting this position
Right.
when my contract expires. He had a discussion with me in December about me being involved in the search for my replacement. which could possibly go to May or June. So what was the urgency? That's my question.
Yeah.
No,
that's-
it's a point well taken. I mean, you know, we convened when we were asked to convene as a committee, and it had nothing to do with the situation at hand with Chief Mellis. It had to task us with looking for a new police. You know, if we were tasked with that
the understanding that
decision.
we have background checks and vetting it
Right.
out as people that are experts in the
Right.
field to do, is that's the town. As I run a business, I interview and do the background checks, and I think Paul said it, that, you know, a lifeguard at Pine Knoll gets a background check. So, again, to Greg's point, I understand that, and I don't know that process, in no deference to you, but, you know, our understanding was they were gonna take care of the HR part of this thing. So, sir?
I wanted to say this. No one's questioning the good job that you people did.
I know.
You were doing what you were told to do, and that's good.
Thank you.
The thing that I have a concern with, and I think many other people here will turn that, before this process began, one or maybe two of those selectmen had a personal vendetta against Chief Millis.
That's right.
They wanted to get him out of that position. Now, I don't know how you feel about doing that. If you
Well,
believe that,
I
how
understand
do
your
you
point.
feel doing this, knowing that there's an agenda there, a vindictiveness, or what do you want to call it, vendetta?
Well, you know, it's, you separate.
I know that.
you-
I'll speak
you-
for
You
myself.
separate from
Once
the,
I commit
Yeah.
to it, I mean, I didn't watch the LCAT of the selectmen on that vendetta. I don't disagree with you. I didn't watch that meeting to see it, but I saw that on the subsequent one, and that's why I say I feel bad, because that is not the man that sits there. In terms of, he's a good chief.
Well, I've known this for 15, 16 months.
So, again, I don't, it doesn't make me better or worse than you. It means that, the reason I got involved was because of it's a safe
I
town.
don't think the integrity
It's,
of.
you know,
of
whether we
the-
do it or not is, you know, we felt that it was the right thing to do.
I don't think the integrity is the issue. You have two sides here. You have maybe agenda, and then you have a duty to put together the proposal, which we had many, many hours on, for the town, for the good of the town, and that's what we've got to look at, not a personality. So what is inferred that there were problems, that should not, and it did not have any decision on what we move forward.
I don't
I
think
can't
your
do-
integrity is
No,
the
it's
Right,
not your
question.
okay.
integrity in question.
I mean, you know, I was frustrated to some degree, I will tell you that. And I thought and considered, you know what, maybe I should walk off this table, but I felt that was a position of weakness, and I'm being candid with you. I had that discussion at my house, and my wife said, I'm frustrated because, you know, if I was hiring somebody for a Dairy Queen, you know, I would interview them. We're talking about the hierarchy of the police department and the highest integrity position in the town. And we're not gonna, committee members are not gonna talk to the candidates? I mean, I just, you know, in looking back on it now in retrospect, you know, I felt that, you know what, I'm gonna stand tall and do the right thing here, and again, I understand the first part of your question. I have a great deal of respect for this man. I'm in law enforcement, I have worked with him in the past, I know his integrity, where he's come from. There's no question about his integrity at all here. And I separated that from this, we were tasked with, we can't go back and look at that. We have to understand, we're cognizant of it, but we're moving forward. We had, the town asked for volunteers to come forward, if represented from the town, to select a new chief. And if we sat in committee and dwelled on, this is wrong, but how are we gonna do what we were tasked to do? And you're right, maybe the right decision would have been, well, do you feel strongly about, sure, I would not wanna be in his position, but, you know, to become a chief and then you wanna go out with honor and decorum. You know, you don't wanna go out under these circumstances. I respect him for that, and I would, in anyone, no matter what job you're in, and especially when you're doing the right thing.
Going
And
back
certainly,
to
the people in the community are behind them, and that's, you know, speaks for itself.
your actual question, I think if my own personal decision, I've heard everybody talking about wanting to stay together as a committee, and I think if it goes back to the selectmen and they don't take our proposal into account, and we are set forth to pick more people and have this task of bringing back all these people, I personally do not think that I would want to be part of it, only because I did what I thought was right. I used my time, I put people that I thought were going to do a good job into a process, and I have a little boy, I'm a mom first, you know, I don't want to be going and continuing to do something that is just going to be biased anyway. So if that's the case and the selectmen don't listen to what we're saying, I don't know if I will be continuing to be on this
Your
committee.
response to me, so let me say that. Before a certain selectman were even elected, they made comments about the police department being corrupt and all that stuff, that they were going to do something about it, things like that, long before they ever got into office. So they had this in the back of their mind when they got elected, that they were going to get rid of this chief. Now, I mean, I know that. I've lived in town my whole life, too. I read the paper every day, I attend meetings, I try to be somewhat involved in things. So I just think that was a dirty play. I mean, that's what I'm saying, and I think people should understand that.
That's why we.
I think most of these comments should be addressed to the select.
Yeah,
Right.
yeah.
Yeah, yeah, thank
We
you.
can't make
I
any
agree.
of these decisions, and we
Yeah,
didn't
I mean-
make this committee.
All right, we're gonna go last question here.
Thank you.
The town budget, the police budget each year hasn't increased that much. And every year, the appropriations committee recommend it, the townspeople voted in, so I don't think they have much problem with the way they're spending the money. So I don't know why some-
I'm not sure, what's the question?
Yeah.
Yeah.
What was the question?
About the expenditure.
Oh, I'm sorry, I got it. Okay, I'm
Expenditure
sorry, I
of the
missed
money,
that.
yeah.
Okay, I got it. So, yeah, and again, I don't disagree, and I guess that segues to this gentleman's point, that it kind of is definitely something that should be brought up with the
Should be
board.
brought up in the respect that it is not the appropriations. It's the Board of Selectmen that sign off on it.
Yeah, so,
But they go by.
I think they go hand in hand.
Only as a recommendation.
Recommendation.
That particular item within probably 50,000 has been the same for 5 years. Not 1 year has gone by with any questions from the Board of Selectmen. And all of a sudden, here we go, 3 months before. It's tainted. Okay.
Anybody else have any questions for the committee? Hearing
Do
none?
we have a motion to
I
adjourn?
motion to
Oh,
adjourn.
You have a question?
My son needs a bath.
She motioned to
We're-
I
we're
motion
going
to adjourn.
What?
We're going to adjourn for another meeting date, or
Well, we don't have a need to have a meeting date
we have
yet.
to reapprove
We
the
gotta go
minutes again,
forward
or
with
no?
the Select Board.
That's the only question.
Yeah, let's see what happens.
Okay.
You know what? We motion to adjourn
The general meeting,
the general meeting,
executive session?
executive session. We will take a look
Reconvene.
at our minutes down the road,
Okay.
but let's see what happens with the,
All right.
those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you.
Don't be running.